But now to the Great Barrier Reef, where the worst ever outbreak of mass coral bleaching has killed a quarter of the coral on one of the world's natural wonders. Last month, some 2,500 of the world's coral reef experts met in Hawaii and agreed to send a letter to Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, warning him that
coral reefs are threatened with complete collapse under rapid climate change,
and urging the Australian government to
stop endorsing the export of coal, and specifically to stop or revoke the approval of new mines, including those in Queensland.
That letter was widely reported by the Australian media, including The Guardian, The Daily Mail, SBS, Nine News and BuzzFeed, while overseas, the LA Times, the Jakarta Post, Canada's CBC and Mashable also thought it a big enough story. But, surprise, surprise, one place you couldn't read it was in The Australian, whose environment editor Graham Lloyd has written several recent stories suggesting coral bleaching ain't as bad as many have claimed.
Great Barrier Reef spared worst of coral bleaching wipeout.
Great Barrier Reef, scientists exaggerated coral bleaching.
Great Barrier Reef management top class, says UN chief.
Graham Lloyd's latest article on the subject, which appeared just as the Hawaii symposium ended, was headlined
Great Barrier Battleground,
with a subtitle to explain that
the bleaching of parts of the reef is dividing the scientific world.
But was this actually right? Those coral reef experts meeting in Hawaii say no. Indeed, Professor Ruth Gates, president of the International Society for Reef Studies, which co-organised the symposium, told MediaWatch
almost every single member of the conference of 2,500 people stood up saying that they felt that bleaching and climate change pose a significant threat to the existence of coral reefs. There's really no discussion about whether or not it's serious. It is very serious. There is no debate about it.
Graham Lloyd found a debate nevertheless, thanks firstly to Professor Peter Ridd of James Cook University, whose views Lloyd has written about before. Ridd told Lloyd that reef science can't be trusted because it's only peer-reviewed, which is a bizarre claim, and one that one of Australia's leading coral reef scientists, Professor Irv Goldberg, told MediaWatch was
just ridiculous.
Adding that peer review is
the same process we use when we're studying aeronautics, which produces planes that we travel on.
Lloyd's report then rehashed a couple of his other recent themes, that fears about the health of the barrier reef have been exaggerated, and that coral is resilient and can recover from bleaching, which, one of his experts assured us, is just
part of a natural selection process from which better adapted populations can emerge.
One of the two people telling Lloyd that the barrier reef will repair itself is an American biologist called Jim Steele. So, is he regarded as an expert on coral? Answer no. Is he known to be an expert on oceans? No again. So is he a famous climate scientist? No, he is not. Indeed, when we asked Professor Gates about him, she told us,
I don't know who this person is, and if they were anyone serious in the field, I should know them.
A little bit of digging reveals that Jim Steele is ex-director of the Sierra Nevada Field Campus of San Francisco State University, where, according to his biography,
he has taught the world of plants, nature study, natural sciences for teachers, bird banding and bird identification by song classes.
His bio also tells us
Jim taught at Everett Middle School and Wallenberg High School as a science teacher.
But possibly of more interest to the Australian than those modest qualifications is the fact that Steele is known to be a climate skeptic and has self-published a book on the subject. But how and why does someone like him get to be quoted as an authority on coral and the Great Barrier Reef? We put that to the Australian's Graham Lloyd, and he pointed us to What's Up With That, the world's most popular climate skeptic website, where Steele recently published an essay on coral bleaching, in which, according to Lloyd,
he analyses and synthesises peer-reviewed coral literature, some of which suggests sustained bleaching during the early 20th century.
But wasn't Jim Steele just a fringe player in the coral debate, we asked Lloyd? To which he replied,
the papers presented by Steele are not fringe.
Adding,
his birdwatching expertise is irrelevant.
Now, those who are familiar with Graham Lloyd's work will know it's not the first time MediaWatch has ripped into some of his climate science reporting, be it about the chances of a new mini ice age, the role of aerosols in global warming, or the health dangers posed by wind farms. We've often criticised him for giving too much weight to fringe science and dissenting views. And according to Professor Irv Goldberg, Lloyd's recent work on the barrier reef also fits this pattern.
What he's doing is taking a sniff of there being something different to the scientific perspective and promoting it as a widely held belief. It's scandalous. To have someone in such a position of power in the Murdoch press saying these sorts of things is really shocking.
Looking at Lloyd's latest coral bleaching report from her base in Hawaii, the president of the International Society of Reef Studies, Professor Ruth Gates, reaches a similar conclusion. Telling Media Watch,
"It feels politicised for me, and it's not balanced, and it's worrying. It feels disingenuous at some level to be putting these views forward which aren't representative of the science."
So we asked Lloyd if he believed his reporting should reflect the views of mainstream science. And he told us bluntly,
It clearly does.
well, I guess that's a matter of opinion. And it must be said that in his latest report, Lloyd does put forward the mainstream view as well. But he doesn't tell readers, for example, that Jim Steele's real expertise is not in coral, but in birds.